don't show it. That's probably one of them. If it's, I don't think it's a main one, because as long as you get through the show, that's the main priority. But not showing it and giving it away to an audience, depending on the audience.
If there's a mistake, it's like covering up from a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not great at it because I have a stank face. Like, what the?
Hey Emma, what drum kit do you use?
Am I too old to start playing drums?
Should I get lessons?
How do I play fast?
cost
When
so
will I
much?
start sounding good?
What do you guys believe let's go with the key 3 drumming fundamentals for a drummer is or are? I'm not sure which way to say that, but yeah. So what are the priorities for a drummer? Let's give it a scenario. What would you say the key 3 priorities for a drummer if you're on stage and you're playing in maybe it's one of those situations where it is a bit, or just in general, what's your things that you have to make sure all times are being ticked off?
I definitely think a great sense of timing.
Yeah.
Good internal clock is like key, really key. That would probably be like the number one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
For sure.
It's literally your job as a drummer. You are the time. So you can't just then flake out. Like, the pulse has to keep going at the end of the day. That's everything. Even if you drop your sticks and you have to keep the kick going, something is still going. And even if you have to simplify parts, it doesn't matter. No, most people will not notice. Most people haven't seen the show before. So most of it is pretty flexible, really.
Okay. So that's number one. Yeah, this is there where it gets difficult, because that one's like, I don't think anyone disputes that, right?
I'm not great at it. It depends on the gig, but also number 2, I think, would be don't show it. That's probably one of them. If it's, I don't think it's a main one, because as long as you get through the show, that's the main priority. But not showing it and giving it away to an audience, depending on the audience.
If there's a mistake, it's like covering up from a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not great at it because I have a stank face. Like, what the are you doing? It's involuntary. But I'd say try.
That I'd say like at least 80% of the time the audience does not notice if there is a mistake. So then don't give it away. And then I think the last one is probably this is mine. Emma can say what hers is. As a working drummer, to just feel comfortable playing different genres, so you have an understanding, even if it's fairly basic, but of loads of different styles, because you never know what situation you're gonna get thrown into, and just having like the overall understanding of what the feel for that style is, so you can get, because often it's not, you don't have to get super complicated with anything, but just knowing the fundamentals of a variety of different styles.
I'd say, I mean, depends on who we're talking to here. This is a very broad question once again, Chris, thanks for that. But I'd also, if we're talking to someone who's kind of newer to drumming, then I'd remove the don't show it thing, because don't think about that. It's more important you get stuff right, and having a broad kind of arsenal that you can pull from, even if it is like surface level understanding, much like my samba playing and jazz playing, then that's also extremely important. What was the other one I was going to say? Being flexible. So getting time with other musicians and learning the kind of unspoken language that goes on stage of like, we're going to the next bit, like being able to do that and not stop. Because
not stop is actually probably a
never stop.
Never stop. Whatever you do, don't stop
until the MD goes, shut up. Don't.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I kind of tend to refer to that as like either musicianship or maybe musicality. I think what Emma's saying there is like just being able to communicate with the band. Don't stop. Make sure that you kind of like gelling. It's an interesting for me. Obviously, time is number one. I've given this a lot of thought anyway, and depending on who the question's being asked to, it obviously varies, as you guys have kind of coming in from both ends of the spectrum. Emma's coming in maybe thinking about students starting off, and Vicky's coming in maybe, more somebody that is trying to get into being a session player. But you can and these are obviously all linked. They're not secular, right? But I think you've got time, and then for me it's feel. And obviously with feel as a thing, it's like, well, Vicky's going to argue, well, yeah, the right feel is going to be dictated by the genre. So yes, like being able to capture that. But if you've just got a general good music understanding, you can probably melt into what else is going on with a good feel, right? If it moves to being swung, it's this or that, or whatever those kind of things might be. So I think feel is quite an important one at the top there.
You can simplify that down to just listening in general.
Yeah.
Because if you're listening to a fellow musician, you also... Like, that was the thing that clicked for me this last tour, was just like, I am so just here. Like, I'm only just listening to the other musicians right now. And I'm rushing, I'm doing all this stuff because I'm not listening to what they're actually doing. And that dictates a lot. And listening also in your own practice as well, because you can video yourself and listen back and you can hear all the glorious things that are going on in your playing. Sometimes
you learn so much about your playing from doing that.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's cool. And I think one of the other things that you guys haven't mentioned, but again, you're going to say, well, this is whether it's stylistically appropriate, is for me, it's like sound. On the acoustic kit is getting that like correct sound style, but also a good sound, because you can have all those other things, but if you're hitting the hi-hats and it's double bouncing and all these things don't sound great, or they don't, that's going to have a massive impact on, like, and even, I use the example, even my mum can tell straight away if someone doesn't sound good. She's like, well, something wrong, they're in time, but I don't know why I don't like this. And you know, she'll be like, there's something not good about this. And so that's very recognizable straight away. Obviously you're not fully in control of that if you're being mic'd up and going out to you know, lots of, like, a big audience, but that's, I think, really important. Yeah, cool. Does anyone else have anything to add? Obviously, there's loads more things. We were just talking about the like, absolute fundamentals.
I don't think so. I think it's interesting that you say what you say about people being able to notice straight away when something's wrong, especially with groove, I think, because we're so naturally in tune from day dot to feel groove. I mean, our heart beats in time, technically, so we are literally rhythmic beings. So of course we're going to pick up when things are a bit wonky and don't sound quite right. So yeah, that's an interesting point.
I don't know whether I said this on one of either of your podcasts. I've just lost track. I've had so many conversations over the last couple of weeks, but there was a bass player that I saw come up on Instagram that was like, there is no such thing as the wrong note. I know this has been talked about a lot, but there you go. And he played just chromatically over someone that was jamming a guitar at a show, right? And it sounded great. And he's like, it's the groove. It's just, if that sounds good. And I know this is not, if you're doing a kind of show like you're doing, Vicky, where if you're just playing all random notes, it's not going to work. But like, it's one of those that's something that, people are going to pick up on straight away, right? So, yeah. Cool. Anything else to add to that at all?
Don't think so.
No? That's it.
Cool. All right then. Well, we'll see you guys next week. And ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
So, now that you know what your priorities should be as a drummer, maybe you have some other questions crop up, like, should I take private lessons instead of just remaining self-taught? Or, how do I get into flow state? What is it? How do I meditate on drums? I thought drums was for angry people. What is this? Feel free to check both of these out and see those questions answered. Other than that, have a fantastic day. Big love. Mwah!